Hi, it's Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is doing fantastic. How to improve your imagination. A lot of us kind of wondering, hey, my imaginal skills, I have a hard time doing it. I'm not very good at imagining. How can I get better at imagining? How can I work on trying to create better, crisper pictures in my mind? Well, I've got a few ideas that you might like. And it's actually 13 of them. And so we're just going to kind of go through them, not too terribly long on any of them, but certainly some really good ideas here on ways to help with our imaginal process. We'll try that word. Much easier to say, in fact. So one of the things that many of us do that greatly affects our ability to do imagining is we watch a lot of TVs, movies, things like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that per se, but what it does is it takes away your imagination. There's no need to imagine. There's no need to pretend that something's there. There's no need to go, I wonder what they're talking about, because it's presented to you. So one of the first things they tell you to do is turn those things off. Turn them off. They're not helping you. So again, one of the things, you got a few minutes you want to work on imagining, turn the TV off, maybe turn the computer monitor off, and spend a little time kind of trying to sort of do it, work on it, instead of being constantly shown what you're supposed to imagine or what you're supposed to see, right? You don't even imagine anymore. It's one of the things, kind of on a sort of a side, but one of the things that a lot of movies have problems with when they create like a horror character or some sort of horrible character is when you finally have to show them. Because in a lot of cases, you ruin the character the second you do that. The anticipation, the not knowing, the assuming it's worse than it is, all of that is really the joy and power of that, when you're trying to create that horror scene or that proper horror monster. It's kind of some of the thought process that goes into that, right? We don't want to give too much away, and then when you finally do, it's not what I imagined. It's not as good as I thought. Another thing is to actually make time to imagine. Many people just think, I've got a couple seconds or I'm driving my car. Let me imagine stuff while I'm doing that. Not really the appropriate place to try to do that. You really want to get yourself in a situation where there's no distractions. Maybe it's quiet, like kind of similar to when you're doing your meditative work, maybe, right? There's a good time when you've got all those distractions kind of minimized in your life, and it gives you that chance to really just be with yourself, be at one. So when you do that, obviously, it does help with your imaginative process. Another good one, this is actually helpful in creating the imagining in your mind, right? Making time and all that stuff is one thing, right? But when it comes to this, reading more. Now, some people suggest that maybe you should just read creative stuff. I don't know exactly what that means per se. To me, reading is reading. Reading is looking at words, but then you're imagining them out in your head. You're making them physical in your mind. You're adding some reality to it within your mind. I think it's why some people don't like reading, because there's that component to it. And the other side is it can be like work unless you've actually picked up a book and truly enjoyed it. And then it's just like, and you're almost bummed when you finish it. There was an author wrote stuff like spy novels, not even anything that was like good. It was just trash that I would read. But I'd literally get depressed when I'd finish his books because I'd have to wait another month before he'd put out another one. And it bummed me out. I'd devour his books. Just absolutely love him. Good stuff. So another one that you can do that also helps, and it really helps with those parts of the brain that work with the imagination and imagining and all that stuff. And it's listening to music that doesn't have lyrics. So, things like jazz, classical, blues, etc. Those types of music genres without words kind of get you into that space where your mind can kind of start to wander, can start to embrace images, start to hold on to them, and that's really a very helpful aspect as well. This is a great one, and I think this also uses different components of the brain. Remember, not all of these are things that are going to work for you, but something on this list should work for you. Hopefully a few things. But one, writing for fun. The concept of writing is similar to reading. It's that you're taking images, thoughts, imaginations, ideas, and putting them into words. It's sort of the reverse of it, but it actually helps inspire that. It helps get that place where you're actually looking at some sort of idea and working through that, looking at it close enough too, for that matter, where you can describe it, right? Now you can walk around the house that you're imagining. What's the other side look like, right? Like it gets you into that mindset where you're doing it. And it's, again, you get better with time no matter what, but that is a big part of it, is getting into that right mindset to where it's actually helpful for imagination versus having loud music going in the background, like a right in the background, and then you've got someone screaming over here and a child in front of you that's just crying, right? And like really hard to imagine when you got all that going around you. So when you put yourself into the proper avenues, proper places, it can make it much, much easier. Visual arts, another really good one. You can do classes, you can make art. Depends, pottery, right? Any of those kinds of painting, all those types of things get you into that same mindset, that same place where you're, imagining things and trying to put it out there, put it in creation, and essentially forces you to imagine. That's the whole point of this, right? Learning a musical instrument. People that do that, the whole concept of doing that is very, it's a process where you're hearing notes and words now and able to actually put that into mechanical motions and playing and being able to strum and possibly get your fingers right? All those things start to come together when you learn an instrument. Very, very powerful creative aspect, which is where a lot of this imaginal stuff comes from as well. Some suggest dressing up for Halloween, for example, or you can have those theme parties. Maybe something for Christmas. Maybe you're putting on the old Santa suit or the dressing up as one of the elves or whatever you do. But getting into that character, kind of playing that character, getting into improv, stuff like that's even similar too, even though you don't necessarily dress up. But again, it puts you into that same mindset. But when you dress up, again, you're kind of taking on that role. You're pretending. You're using that same part of your brain that imagination tends to come from. Another one you can do, we're almost done with these, by the way, so don't get too worried. Decorating your home. It's another one, like painting, maybe going out buying some knickknacks that you feel can help your room or help your situation, help your house. Because really, when you think about it, a lot of that is imagining the house and then imagining it with that little knickknack in place, or imagining it with that color, or envisioning the room all in that color versus just that little swatch that you did, right? So it's that concept. It really does build these practices and makes you a lot better at it. See art and make up a story for it. Kind of like a similar example would be like taking this picture here, and he's like, oh no, there's a unicorn flying behind me, and he's like in the middle of running. That's one version of that story. Or the other could be like, I've made this unicorn levitate, now watch what I do to you, right? Like any number of things this guy could be doing with his hands and his airy fairies. He's got a castle hiding over there, unicorn running around in the background. What the heck is going on? I don't know. And a lot of people have asked me about this, and since I'm talking about it, this is like basically my master teacher. It's at least an image and likeness that fits for him. So that's kind of what he represents to me. The picture was given to me as a gift, and I absolutely love it. And it's just got that it's got fairies in it. It's like just got that magical quality, which I absolutely love that part of life. I want to say reality, but so many people would argue with me on whether that's real or not. So on my imaginal stuff, these are some of my best buddies right over here. That's what I'm saying. All right. So yeah, make up a story for some art thing or a piece of art or a statue, and he stood like that and then froze, right? Like, I don't know, make up something. But again, it kind of gets you into that creative mindset. Stimulating conversations with other people. It's another great way. You get involved with someone in a conversation that's stimulating, that's fun, that kind of keeps that mental going. Kind of like improv, very similar to that as well. Like that's that same thing where you're getting those same parts of your brain activated that are involved in imagining, right? So a lot of these are different ways to kind of fire those neurons, try to get them to connect easier. And as they do, you get better and better at it. And certainly, as you practice, you get better at it. Last but not least, by anything, this is actually a funny one, but it is super true, and it made me think of a lot of different jobs I've had in the past. Do something boring. Seriously, do something boring and start to see what happens to your imaginal process and your the abilities to do it. Sit there and fold laundry. There was a point where I stocked shelves at a grocery store in my life and just putting cans up and facing them all. Like, it's mundane, boring work. But you find yourself making it fun. You find yourself putting little patterns into it. You find yourself trying to somehow make it a little more interesting. For me, it was filling in holes. It was like, how perfect can I make it look by the time I'm done, right? And it was fun to go from a messy looking thing, and by the time for me, one of the main aisles I loved was the canned vegetable aisle. Loved it because they're all cans, and cans are kind of a pain in the butt, and I was really good at them. Knew where everything was, and I could do it very quickly. So it was one of those things where it looked awesome after I was done with it. And that was one of the things that kind of helped make it fun for me too. But again, do something boring and watch how your mind starts to wander. That's the same places that the imaginal stuff comes from. So let those things happen. Do more boring things and let yourself practice that imaginal work. Again, if you stink at it right now, it's okay. You can get better with time. You can definitely get better as you practice. And by using these different techniques, the ones that maybe kind of reached out to you and felt good to you, that'll get you better at imagining and get you further on down the road towards this whole law of attraction thing. The feelings that come with it is part of the imaginal. The whole thing is meant to come together. But the more real we can make it and see it and feel it, the more real it is. And the more real it is, the quicker it tends to happen in our lives. That's just the way it seems to work as far as a very black and white kind of rule that, not all situations are identical. But that generally is some very consistent things I see with people that manifest quicker than others. That's some of the key differences too. So again, all these things seem to work together. They're all helpful. And hopefully this gets you guys moving in a better direction in the old imaginal happenings. And if not, might even make you just better at it in general, which then really starts to allow you to do something. I've kind of a technique that I've come up, and I'll probably put it out this week. I'm thinking might be late in the week, but I just kind of thought of it today, and I was like, and I was doing some research, and I couldn't really find anyone that's calling this anything. I'm not saying it's my technique. I'm just taking an idea, a concept, and actually turning it into a very neat visualization technique that I will share. And this kind of tied into that too. This all sort of spun out of itself. And I just, didn't want to, thought the other one would be a really cool show unto itself. So that one will be coming. A great new visualization technique by Dan RadioStyle. And outside of that, hopefully this makes a big difference. Appreciate all you guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And hit the little bell icon at the bottom. Get the little lings next to it. And when you've got that, every time I put out any new videos, you will be notified so you can immediately watch and be one of the first people to comment. A lot of people like to do that. Hopefully everything's good. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. And we'll be doing more stuff coming soon. Thank you.